Hello and welcome to the Old School of Hard Knocks podcast. And today we're discussing the cut down of journalists within Pakistan. The circus act that we define as the Pakistan Army continues with its nationwide oppression under the stewardship of that son of a bitch, General Javed Bajwa. Now, Bajwa and his table of generals are now in the process of cutting down journalists or anyone who dares to criticize his methodology of ruling the country under martial law without calling it martial law. So let's face it, Pakistan at this moment in time is under martial law, but nobody's calling it martial law. He's still calling it a coalition government, which has been installed by, put it this way, Joe Biden has his hand up General Bajwa's ass. General Bajwa has his hand up Shahbaz Sharif's ass. Shahbaz Sharif has a hand up Asif Zardari's ass. And Miriam Sharif has her hand up Bilawal Bhutto's ass. And I think Bilawal Bhutto is thoroughly enjoying Miriam Sharif with her finger up his ass. So now what's happened now is a journalist and anchor person who is associated with Express News here in Pakistan. The journalist's name is Imran Riaz Khan, but I'm just going to call him Imran Riaz as not to confuse with Imran Khan, the ousted Prime Minister and the leader of the PTI party. So Imran Riaz, journalist and a critic of the army and the ruling coalition of the Pakistan People's Party and Pakistan Muslim League Nawaz, forming a coalition to oust Prime Minister Imran Khan and to form a coalition to run the government, which obviously they're taking orders from the army, chief of staff, and the chief of staff is thus taking orders from the United States of America, Joe Biden. So he's had nearly 24 charges filed against him. This is Imran Riaz, and throughout the province of Punjab. Now, the charges are as follows: abatement of mutiny and criticism of the state institutions. Now, if the state institutions, which includes the police force, the judicial system, the legal system, the army, and all the other civil servants that come under the banner of government, if they are all inefficient and corrupt in what they do, I mean, for God's sake, the courts of Pakistan, the judges, these motherfuckers, they don't get out of bed before 1 p.m. But for somehow, the day that Prime Minister Imran Khan was ousted from government and his party set aside, somehow the judges and the courts managed to open at midnight. I mean, you fucking couldn't script this. This is nothing in Pakistan comes alive before 1 p.m. These bastards sleep late, eat late, wake up in midday and conduct their business then. And somehow these bastards managed to open the courts at midnight in order to complete the process of the vote of no confidence against the PTI and Imran Khan. Now, this is basically from the book of the United Kingdom as how they handled the case with Julian Assange. They cut Julian Assange in exactly the same way, kangaroo court. Imran Riaz now in a kangaroo court himself. But I've seen this system and I've had this done against me as well. When you file multiple cases, and especially if you have a good living wage, you're not really entitled to free legal representative. You have to pay for your own representation of barristers and lawyers. And I've seen this done to a lot of American actors and actresses and musicians and lawyers and businessmen in order to bring them in line if they get out of line. So what they generally do is they'll file multiple cases against a person, and then the person has to pay the lawyers and the barristers in order to clear the case. So you clear one case, and then what happens? they bring in another case with another different charge, or a charge from a different state or a different province, and then you've got to spend time in jail, and then you've got to spend money on lawyers and solicitors and barristers in order to clear your name of those charges. And so he's got approximately 24 charges filed against him. So as he clears one, he steps out of court, and then he's arrested again. And then this way, eventually, his own personal funds will deplete. And this is a tact which has been used against me. And especially if you're in America, or you're in Europe, or you're in the United Kingdom, we're going into Pakistani crores. I mean, I was taken to court on trumped up charges, but because I was an engineer and I had a good living, I had to defend myself. And it cost me the best part of £40,000, £50,000. I had a barrister who was on £5,000 a day. Before it got to court, I spent £20,000. And then when I cleared the case, there was another case. And you go through the whole process again. And the whole process, especially in the United Kingdom, can take a year. It started in 2016. It concluded in 2018. Then it started again in 2018. And I just thought, oh, fuck this. I'm leaving. I'm not spending a single penny more. And that was that. So this is the exact same tact that they're using against Imran Riaz Khan, the journalist, so that he has to continually defend himself and continually spend his funds, his savings, in defending himself. And they'll keep going on and on and on like this until he can defend himself no more. And then he will come into line. But he has said that, quoted as saying this, and you've got to remember that a dozen police officers, so you've got 12 police officers standing at the toll plaza of Islamabad, and they've arrested a single guy, non-threatening, who was making his way to Islamabad from Lahore for legal reasons. And they arrested him at the toll plaza of the motorway. Now, he has said himself that I don't think the arrest makes any difference. I'm requesting all journalists to raise your voices and to continue performing your duties, meaning be good journalists. Pakistan does not have good journalists. Number one, the quality of journalism in Pakistan is atrocious. Number two, all the media, all the newspapers, all the TV channels, radios, all the social medias have been bought and paid for, if not by the army, by the ruling parties. So you've got Pakistan People's Party and you've got Pakistan Muslim League. Everybody, there are many dogs, there are many bones, and everybody is looking for a piece of their own. Now, he's gone on to say, this is journalist Imran Riaz, that it makes no difference whether they imprison me or kill me or whatever they do. I think we should continue performing our duties. I'm requesting all journalists to raise your voice and keep doing your jobs. The problem with that is any journalist that speaks against the army or the institutions of Pakistan, they're basically arrested and the key is thrown away. Now, General Bajwa, such is a cowardice of this man that he insists on still calling white black and black white. Now, the psychopathic generals who are living a great hearty life of the poor people of Pakistan these people do not understand the concept, nor are they interested in the word empathy or sympathy. Now, this is Class A. This is Class A school of power politics. And let's face it, these suck-fuck cunts who are sitting as Bajwa's puppets, Nawaz Sharif, Asif Zardari, Bilawal Bhutto, Miriam Sharif, they are there out of necessity and probably choice, but they've been put there or they have run the risk of being thrown into an army jail and have the key thrown away. Now, Imran Riaz, he's still under arrest as this, and today is Thursday the 7th or the 8th of July, and the charges against him. So where are the charges? So there's 17 cases registered against him. And also what's happened is this journalist, and I mentioned this in my last podcast as well, he's had his car seized and he's had licensed weapons and guns. Now in Pakistan, if you are entitled to have a gun, if you have a license for the gun or a pistol shotgun or whatever the licenses are regarding each particular weapon. Now, he's had them seized as well and taken away. And this is another tack that the army is using, is that they are confiscating weapons from public, not just journalists or people who are critical of the army, but they're in the process of confiscating weapons, especially weapons from the public. And I mentioned this in my last podcast number 1, that this is for the self-preservation of the army. The army wishes to preserve itself, and in order to do so, there cannot be no external force which is ready to fight them, i.e. the people of Pakistan. So they have now engaged in the confiscating weapons, whether you have a license or not, and you will not get an opportunity or a chance to have it returned or to apply for another one, because the Pakistan Army has closed all licenses for all weapons in Pakistan. Therefore, if the people do wish to turn on, it's almost a concept of the amendments in the United States. The amendment, the freedom to carry weapons, is not because of an external force, it's because of tyranny or a tyrant internal force. And this is exactly what Pakistan is facing at the moment. So what the Pakistan Army and the judicial system of Pakistan have decided to do, if they decided to take the United Kingdom, the British route, and to present the journalist Imran Riaz in a kangaroo court and have a kangaroo case filed against him, which he then has to defend. Same with Julian Assange. And Julian Assange had no chance, never had a chance, and will never get a chance, because he's been hung out to dry and he's going to be made an example of. And so is this guy. They're going to make an example of him. And if he still doesn't come to heel, then they will assassinate him. There's no question about that. This is what their aim is. This is what they're all about. Fall in line or die. And we'll see what the conclusion is, because the highest authority at this time in Pakistan is the army. The army are psychopaths. The generals who are living such great lives, they are mercenaries. So the Pakistan Army, it should actually be called Pakistan Limited, Pakistan Army Ltd, because the Pakistan Army, they are mercenaries, and they are on sale to the highest bidder. And unfortunately, at this time, the highest bidder for the Pakistan Mercenary Ltd services is Joe Biden and his administration, which now takes me on to the second case. Now, if anybody saw my coup d'etat video on YouTube, so if you go into YouTube and you type in Old School of Hard Knocks, you'll see a video version of coup d'etat, and it's a video version mix. Now, towards the end of the video, a statement piece made by Imaan Mazari. Now, she's the daughter of Shireen Mazari, and she's been has been highly critical of the Pakistan Army and Pakistan institutions of their corruption. And she was also brought to task under trumped-up charges, abatement of an act of insubordination by soldiers making derogatory remarks against the Pakistani chief. So therefore, you are not entitled to criticize any actions of the Pakistan Army or General Bajwa or his cronies, and they can undertake any action with impunity. Imaan Mazari was recently held up in front of a court on trumped-up charges set up by the army, by their own lawyers and barristers. So Imran Riaz has had nearly 24 charges brought against him throughout the province of Punjab, and that is simply because he chose to criticize the army and their actions in the role of ousting the PTI government and replacing it with a coalition government. And the army has, you have to say this with a straight face, that the army has forever seen itself as a unaccountable force within Pakistan, and that the people, they seem to treat the people as they're there to serve them and not vice versa. So Imaan Mazari, she brought the army to task, and you can see a few of her videos and follow her Twitter channel. You'll be able to see this. And she brought the army to task by questioning the corruption that the army undertakes with impunity. Now, the army is Pak Army Ltd. They are mercenaries. It's a mercenary organization which is funded by the people of Pakistan. unfortunately is a byproduct of the corruption. And the people of Pakistan, there's not much they can do about it at the moment, or they're unwilling to do anything about it at the moment, because in order to bring this to a halt, the people are going to have to be armed and hit the streets, because the General Bajwa, he's a psychopath. The people of Pakistan are in crisis. All General Bajwa and his generals wish to do is to suck the cocks of the Americans. And anyone who has a dollar, the pound, or the euro in their hands, General Bajwa and those that defend this poor excuse of a man it is un-Islamic, General Bajwa, to suck the cock of other men for money or for other services. Now, just like Satan is accountable to God, General Bajwa, you and your army and your generals are accountable to God, and you're all accountable to the people of Pakistan, because you loot them and you treat them as third-class citizens, when it is because of them you sit where you sit. Now, the Pakistan Army and those of you who eat and gain your sustenance from the Pakistan Army, your silence is the authority that the devil needs to carry out his works. So people think that by saying nothing and doing nothing, which is pretty much a culture in Pakistan, it seems that this generation of youngsters, who is going to affect more than, say, someone like me, they don't have the courage, because they're too busy on their fucking mobile phones to worry about what's happening and what's going on. And they think that everybody can just walk outside of Pakistan and earn a living outside. Everything is going to come to a halt and a crunch at some stage. Like I said, the Pakistan Army and those of you who gain your sustenance from the Pakistan Army, your silence is deafening. Now, the other thing that I've been thinking about is all the actions that the Pakistan Army and General Bajwa is doing. Now, I've been thinking, and maybe that's something I shouldn't do, but me thinking comes with a health warning. The actions that General Bajwa and his puppets who are fronting the Pakistan government at this time, it seems all rather counterproductive to the benefit. I mean, though he's an arsehole, he's a psychopath, he's a son of a bitch, and those who sit at the table with him are sons of bitches as well. But even a psychopath, you wouldn't expect to disintegrate what he is being a psychopath about. Meaning, for example, he is a psychopath of Pakistan, he's ruling Pakistan, he's running Pakistan, but yet at the same time his actions present us with a conundrum of his actions are actually counterproductive for Pakistan, because it will eventually destroy Pakistan. So it has to get one thinking that it makes no bloody sense whatsoever, that the Pakistan Army is only leading in one direction, and his actions are leading in the direction of the total annihilation of Pakistan. And which, on the surface of everything, it makes no bloody sense whatsoever, unless if you bring in from the shadows the secret lodges and the secret society groups that operate within Pakistan, then this makes perfect sense. Now, I've had a good look around Islamabad. I've had a good look around Lahore and Faisalabad and Karachi and other cities, Multan in Pakistan. And one thing I can categorically say, and if you're looking for it, is that there are plenty of secret handshakes and symbolisms within Pakistan. There are plenty of secret societies that are operating within Pakistan. So it wouldn't surprise me that the lodges that control the industry and the media and other institutions in Pakistan are the same organization that has control over the defense force of Pakistan. So, for example, I wouldn't be totally shocked or surprised if somebody said, "Do you know General Bajwa is a Freemason?" It will make perfect sense, because they work together as a brotherhood. It's the brotherhood that counts, and everybody else is external to that. So this is the only thing that makes sense to me, especially if you study the occult. I've studied the occult for nearly 3 decades now. and this is the only thing that makes sense to me, is that the actions that the Pakistan army and the generals are undertaking at this time, it just leads to secret societies in Pakistan who are interconnected with secret societies throughout the world. So it wouldn't surprise me that the lodges that control everything in Pakistan are the same lodges and the same people and the hidden hand that controls the Defense Force of Pakistan. So that will be the Army, the Air Force, the Navy. So the Army is taking itself into a direction where they've now become the curse of the nation. Everybody is cursing Lanat on the Army of Pakistan and the police force and the legal system and the judges and the courts. You're all corrupt. The media is one force. But unfortunately, Pakistan suffers some of the highest illiteracy in the world. And unfortunately, a lot of the Pakistan people, whether they live in the cities, whether they don't, whether they live in villages, they don't have the mental capacity to comprehend this. It's almost like, some people can see a storm coming from far away, so they prepare, they board up the windows and everything. And some people recognize the storm as it's just about to come overhead, so they go and duck for cover. And it just seems that the Pakistan people seem to notice a storm after it has passed and done with destruction, etc., etc. And the illiteracy level in Pakistan, unfortunately, which I think is by design.
Fuck the New World Order. Fuck the New World Religion. Fuck the New World Government. In fact, fuck all you enslaving femme motherfuckers.
This regime change, sponsored by the US, he calls our ambassador, a meeting between our ambassador in Washington. He tells our ambassador, in an official meeting, there are note takers on both sides. He tells the ambassador that unless you get rid of your Prime Minister Imran Khan in a vote of no confidence, which by the way hadn't been tabled as yet, but he seemed to know about it, he said, unless you get rid of him, Pakistan will suffer consequences. And then goes on to say, of course, if you get rid of him through the vote of no confidence, all will be forgiven. We have watched what is the brutality that is going on in Kashmir since 5th August 99, when they just violated all human rights. Virtually, people who put under siege. We never heard any condemnation by the US or the Europeans, who expected us to condemn what was going on in Ukraine.
Cutting of the legs of the journalists is now swiftly underway in Pakistan. I'll say this in my last podcast and I'll say it again. The Pakistan army needs to be overhauled. The Pakistan army has to be destroyed and built from scratch. The infiltration of Pakistan politics and the infiltration of the police force, the infiltration of the defense services, the infiltration of the courts and the judicial systems, the media and the TV, is in line with the rest of the world, meaning they're all fucking sold out. All of these institutions have been infiltrated by an external force and a satanic force. Now, anyone, which is going on now in Pakistan, is anyone questioning the conduct of any Pakistani institution is now being systematically cut down and threatened. And this has happened with Imaan Mazari, because we haven't had a conclusion to Imran Riaz, because poor guy's still sitting in jail. I don't know if it's charge number 2, charge number 3 that he's trying to excuse himself from. But Imaan Mazari, she was taken to court. She got pretty much what you call a slap on the wrist, simply because her mother, Shireen Mazari, is a human rights, or was part of the human rights activist. And she has apologized in her defense. Because look, it's a simple case of you apologize, otherwise we put you in jail, throw away the fucking key, and nobody sees you again. So this is basically the two choices that Imaan Mazari had. You shut the fuck up and you don't speak anymore, or criticize any of Pakistani institution. They want to say do not criticize the Pakistan army, but it can't be seen like that. So they have to say the institutions, but really the Pakistan army. Don't you ever fucking criticize the army again. And if you do, we're going to fucking throw you in jail and throw away the key. So she has had no option, and you wouldn't blame her. She's had no option but to apologize, make it a public apology. Not only that, they wanted her to apologize in front of the media and in front of the television cameras. So the judicial system of Pakistan, if it's not overthrowing and opening up at midnight to oust a elected government, are basically bringing journalists and anyone who is critical, whether they're public or not, into the courts, and basically got two options: shut the fuck up or go to jail and never be seen again. And there have been multiple kidnappings, multiple people disappearing who have been critical of the army and the Pakistani institutions. I am not revealing myself at the moment because main raj ke pen chode di besti karni hai. And then I'll reveal myself and fuck it, whatever happens, happens. So this is all intertwined with the globalists. This is a globalist agenda which is going on. Bajwa is working for the globalists. And I just want to touch on, so I've touched on Imaan Mazari and Imran Riaz Khan, the journalist. But I also want to touch on Rabi Pirxada, especially when the Kashmiri incident was going on. And she had a few things to say and a few pictures to take and to bring Modi to task. And look at what the Pakistan army did with Rabi Pirxada. Now, personally speaking, this is my own personal opinion, I think she was a bit naive in how she went about making her point. Because if she knew that these pictures and videos had been recorded and sent over internet, then there's a chance that, and obviously she's being a big famous star as well, there was always a chance that her phone has been hacked and monitored. So I think it was pretty much naive on her part about how she went to make the point, especially when she knew there was footage of her in compromising circumstances and situations. Let's call it like that. So this also tells us when you wish to make a criticism against institutions, then one has to really make sure that they don't have any skeletons in the closet. And unfortunately for Rabi Pirxada, she had plenty in the closet in terms of skeletons. But I still feel personally that I don't think it was enough that should have stopped her in her tracks. Because what she did in her personal life would have remained her personal life. But I think she weakened her position by stepping back and not taking the bull by the horns and continuing. And she should have just brushed it aside. It would have strengthened her position, I feel. So I think she should have carried on with her music, and she could have spoken about injustice. She could have talked about poverty. She could have talked about 100 different things through her music. She could have put a message in her music. And I think that rather than being an online salesman now selling shoes and clothing and whatever and calling music haram. I mean, I just don't get these people who call music haram. I mean, a book can be influential just as much as a song. I mean, I just released Coup d'etat. It's about injustice. It's about poverty. It's about the way the people of Pakistan are treated. There's nothing haram about that song. Maybe I've got some expletives put in there, but that's more out of anger and frustration rather than trying to look cool. And I'm too old I've got a white beard, man. I'm too old to be doing raps and stuff. But I'm so incensed by what's going on that I'm forced. I was happy just producing music, but now I'm so incensed that I'm actually forced to write a rap down because nobody else is doing it. And I think Rabi Pirxada was in a great position where she could have sung about these things. She had the platform, she had the following, and she would have been listened to. And regardless of her being caught and filmed in her compromising position, and then obviously it went viral and everything, I still think it wasn't such a bad situation, a serious situation, because her private life, that was her private life. And I think she could have sidestepped it and come out even stronger. So I think if she listens to this, please come back with your music and talk about what's going on, because look, we're all going to be judged on what we said and what we didn't say. And sometimes what we don't say is more accountable in God's eyes than what we do say. So Rabi Pirxada, look, you have a platform, you have followers, you have people who will listen to you. Tell them what's going on. Even if you have to go abroad. And then the second thing I've been thinking about in terms of why the army is behaving in such a manner is obviously the secret societies, as I mentioned. But then the second thing that's come to mind is that I feel inside that the Pakistan army generals, they've been offered elite positions in the New World Order, in the New World Order security. This is the only reason that makes any kind of sense as to why they're doing what they're doing. So I put my cards on the table and I say, General Bajwa, you have been offered position in the New World Order security, worldwide security, and his fucking generals. And I bet you I am 80% on the ball here, or in the ballpark of that, because their actions of how they're conducting themselves in Pakistan makes no sense unless this comes into the equation. And this is coming into the equation. You've made a deal with the New World Order, the new reset that's coming, the financial meltdown which is coming to the world, and you've been offered positions, and you've been offered money, you've been offered whatever, and this is why you're doing it. I'm 80% around the ballpark that this is what's going on. So the problem we have here now is the people of Pakistan and the people of the world. But I'm focusing on Pakistan, but it's the same situation for the people of the world as well. Because Pakistan is the poorest country, and that's why it's being hit first before everyone else. It's the same thing that you would look at why America, Canada, and the European Union are doing with Russia what they're doing, and with Ukraine. It makes no sense. It's counterproductive. It can lead to Third World War, World War III. It can lead to nuclear missiles. It can lead to... There's something else behind this, which is encouraging the Americans and the British and the French and the Germans to continue this war with Russia. So I conclude that the Pakistan generals have been offered elite positions in the New World Order security forces. And this is the only thing that makes sense to they doing what they're doing. So that being said, everyone is bought, everyone is paid for. Only a few true speakers and seekers are out there in the world before we all become extinct. But this is something that's going to have to go into the roads and into the streets. If Pakistan wants to save itself from such tyranny and dictatorship, it has to get onto the roads, and it's going to have to get bloody. Because this dog called Bajwa will not heal of his own accord. He has to be brought to task. He has committed treason. His generals have committed treason. We shall be looking for an overhaul of the army, overhaul of the judicial system, of the courts, of the legal system. Anyone and everyone who was involved in this treason against Pakistan must receive the death penalty. I would stand them up in public and have a public hanging. Every single one of them. So this is what we need to do. We need to move forward. We need to back our journalists. We need to back our people who are coming out and speaking against injustice. This is part of our faith. This is what makes us Muslims. If you go and visit the Pakistan Army website, presented on the homepage, the mantra, but there's nothing they follow themselves. The corruption of the Pakistan army will not come to an end until the people of Pakistan put it to an end. The Pakistan army needs to be overhauled. It needs to start again. It needs to know its position. And it has to serve the people. The people can no longer serve greedy bastards who look out for their own interests and their own interests alone. Okay, I thank you for listening. The next podcast, I think we'll move a little bit away from Pakistan for a bit. And I think the next one we'll go into Elon Musk and big tech and discuss what's going on there, and artificial intelligence and the extinction of man. That'll be something interesting to look forward to. Thank you for listening. God bless. Talk to you soon.